Hey, the one thing you know about the mafia is a deal's a deal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Mike Franzese, former mob boss, who I actually spent a weekend with. I could tell that story later.
Please put that in the intro somewhere.
So, hello and welcome to Ruggles Round Up. This is our section of the Elevated Mission podcast where we talk about everything sports and our insights about what's been going on in the NFL, college football, whatever that we've been seeing out there in the sports world. Make sure if you haven't, you give us a like and a follow. We really need you guys to be watching us because we're bringing awesomeness every week. I got Ian here with us, and we're excited to talk to you about a few topics that that we've noticed that are going around right now.
Yeah, well, this should be hitting your guys' YouTube that Friday right before New Year's. And so let's have a little New Year's fun saying New Year, new coach,
I like
as
it.
we go through some of these different coaches that may have their jobs on the line in these last few games. If they could turn around, maybe they keep their coaching job. Let's go through it.
Okay, I'm here for it. I'll tell you what, this first one that you've got, Ian, on the list, Dennis Allen, with the New Orleans Saints. See you, Dennis. I mean, great defensive coordinator, and I'm sure he'll find a spot to do that really fast, but just an awful division in the NFL, ready and primed for the pickings, and can't get it done with an above average quarterback at the helm with Derek Carr. And I just think you got to find somebody that's going to take over that helm and get the Saints where they need to be.
Yeah, I mean, it's not even Derek Carr. I think we both can agree has fallen off over the last few years from what he was back in the 20 teens for those Raider teams. But you're still comparing him to Baker Mayfield, Desmond Ritter, and rookie quarterback Bryce Young in that NFC South Conference. And so you 100% have the best quarterback in that division. You should be leading that division by far, as that Buccaneers team has a lot of holes in it. Falcons, obviously, we'll be talking about Falcons in just a little bit on this whole entire coach topic. And then Panthers, obviously, they're 2-12, and they're trying to figure out all their randomness. And so Saints should be leading that NFC South Conference, and they just haven't done so. And I think it's a large portion due to the scheme that they've been running. And so, sorry, Dennis Allen, we may be looking for an offensive mind for this offensive NFL.
Yeah, it's definitely an offensive-minded league, and I don't know. I just don't see Dennis Allen as a head coach. Apologies to Dennis Allen if you're watching the show, but I don't think he is. But still, apologies there. I do have to pay a few bills, and I'm going to start that here with thanks for the cup of coffee from Zach. He's a coffee artist, and he created this fine cup of coffee for me today. Thank you, Zach.
Absolutely delicious stuff. Well, next up, we got Chicago Bears, Matt Eberflus. Obviously, Chicago Bears have been a topic of discussion for the past few years. They've been on a rotation of different coaches. Matt Eberflus hasn't really gotten a true shot at developing a team over there in Chicago, and it's felt like just chaos for the entirety of his stint there. Does he deserve to get the boot, or does he deserve to get more opportunities heading into the new year?
Well, here's the deal with Matt. I don't know if he's to blame for all the problems there for sure. You know, they haven't drafted the right players, but he's gotten the defensive side of the ball right. But it is an offensive NFL right now. And I think, they got to go back into the pool of coaches and find somebody new to right the ship on the offensive side of the ball. Unfortunately for Matt, and maybe he can get another shot in another place, but they haven't done him any favors there in Chicago. And I do think what he's gotten done on the defensive side of the ball is really good. Like, that defense looks like it's playing pretty good football right now, and they've gotten some good defensive players in the room. So maybe he can pull a whole team together, but he needs a strong OC with him paired up to be able to be an effective coach. And I think probably for the Bears, go get yourself an offensive minded head coach and then see what you can do. That's my thought.
Yeah, I think I completely agree with you on that. I think Matt Eberflus 100% deserves a NFL coaching gig because he's that good at the defensive side of the football. If you're like the Minnesota Vikings in conference with the Chicago Bears, and Brian Flores is going to be looking at a lot of head coaching jobs this year with his turnaround of that defense that he had from being, I think, the second worst defense in the league last year to being in the top half of the league this year. And so they're going to be looking for a defensive coordinator most likely this upcoming year. Matt Eberflus is a great fill in for that. If you're looking for a DC, he is going to fill that role and make your defense even better. But head coaching, I'm just not a huge guy that leans into the defensive head coaches. If you're
It's hard.
going to be a defensive head coach, you need to be a guy that I can really buy into, like a Robert Sala, that also brings like a mentality to your organization as well. And even Robert Sala, it's been a struggle over there with the Jets to get it going. I'd blame that more on just like the injury situation that's been there. But I believe it just because he brings an attitude to the organization, where I feel like Matt Eberflus didn't bring that attitude shift to the organization that you hope for a defensive coach.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think, unfortunately, a great coach. I think he's doing nice things. He's got to go.
Oh yeah. Now a guy that's kind of on the opposite side of the spectrum of that, where I think he brings an attitude shift, but doesn't necessarily bring the schematics that I necessarily want, and that's Ron Rivera for the Washington Commanders.
Yeah, a few years ago, I would have said Ron Rivera, good choice at the head coaching position. I think that the league has moved in a different direction than what Ron Rivera has been bringing as a head coach, and it's just not going to be advancing beyond what they are. They are a team just in the playoffs or just out of the playoffs. They're not going to be one of the awful teams, but they're not going to be one of the really great teams as well under his leadership. And so, you know what? Maybe, like, we were talking before the show and you were saying maybe that keeps the ownership happy. It doesn't keep the fan base happy at all.
No, I completely agree. He's one of those guys that has stuck with the older style of football and hasn't evolved with the motioning, moving guys around, spreading out the football a ton, and it just hasn't shifted around, even while picking up an OC that comes from a team that does it very well with Bieniemy coming over from the Chiefs, and they just haven't been able to do exactly what I've wanted to. They have weapons out there with Jahan Dotson, Terry McLaurin, Logan Thompson at the tight end spot, and they just haven't been as experimental with the offense as I'd like to see, moving guys around, and I think that's a detriment to this team that has so much offensive talent. And I think you might want to look for a different head coach. But he's one of those guys that I definitely move off of with a hesitation because he builds a good organization, he builds a
Yeah.
good mentality in your organization.
Yeah.
Then if you can find a guy that can bring you both good mentality and schematics, I think you're going to win a lot of games.
Well, one thing that's the same about all three coaches that we've talked about so far is defensive side of the ball, defensive side of the ball, defensive side of the ball. But we're about to change that with the next coach that we're about to talk about. Tell me your thoughts, Ian, about Arthur Smith over at the Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah, I've quickly spouted my opinion about Arthur Smith on the podcast throughout the last few shows,
Mm-hmm.
and I just hate his offense. It's so
Tell
hard
me
to
how you really
watch.
feel.
It's an absolute snore of an offense. It's so much. It's that Titans offense, but you don't have Derrick Henry to make it exciting, and
Yeah.
so and then you watch it, and the whole reason I dislike this offense and is due to the fact that it underutilizes the star players. And you've spent so many years drafting, Kyle Pitts, Drake London, Bijan Robinson to be the focal point star offensive weapons for your team. And when they consistently get underutilized in games, and it's an underutilization because you see the games where they do get utilized and they are star players like you expected them to be, it's just hard to watch. And you got to say, I need to find a guy that can utilize all this talent to make it easier for, Desmond Ritter, who's a young quarterback trying to develop. You can't
Yeah.
have him running in an offense with as much talent as it has, so stagnant.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, yeah, here's the thing. I was just actually listening to the podcast of my good friend Rob Motti. He does Faith on the Field. Shout out to Faith on the Field, Rob Motti. He was interviewing Emmett Smith, and he was talking. Emmett Smith was talking about coming into the stadium knowing he's going to get 20 carries, a game. It sets a completely different mindset. He knows what to expect as he hits the turf, right? And he knows he can get in that rhythm, and no matter what happens in carry 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, he knows he's getting more runs, he's getting more carries, and he's going to be able to get into a rhythm and go. And you got all this talent there in Atlanta, and none of them are getting in any kind of rhythm. They just, I'm going to get a lot of catches, I'm going to get a lot of carries this game, but not the next game. You just don't know what's coming. And even we talked about too, family member of ours, played Major League Baseball, and he was talking about being that utility infielder. And he was talking about when you don't know that you're going to get the at bats before you come to the stadium that day, it's hard to have the mentality to be able to go out and hit. When you know you're going in there and you're going to be, you're going to be the shortstop and you're going to be able to play and get those at bats, then you hit the ball a lot better. Well, the same thing's true. It doesn't matter what sport it is. You need to be able to know the mentality. I'm getting the ball. I'm going to be in rhythm. I'm going to be able to go.
Oh, yeah. When you get only one at bat a game, you're thinking, oh, make sure I don't get the strikeout. When you get
Right.
3 at bats a game, you think, okay, let's make a big play out of this. And that's the same thing with these running backs, wide receivers. You only get 3 targets a game. You really get nervous about those 3 targets a game. You get
Right.
you get a 10 targets a game every single game. You're feeling pretty confident about yourself. And that's just how it has been for this Falcons team, that I've expected these skill players to develop, and Arthur Smith has just not delivered the package on time.
If you don't know, he's the
Last but
son of
not
the
least
founder
on
of
this,
FedEx.
oh
So,
yes, yes.
yeah.
But last but not least on this little list of coaches we're going over, Bill Belichick for the New England Patriots, which has actually been a little bit more talked about than I ever would have expected in
Yeah.
this 2023-24 season.
Yeah, and in some weird rumors of him getting traded, going to different places. I mean, I don't even know why Mike Tomlin's name has been involved in this. We've heard about to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We've heard, to the Chargers. These just strange rumors with Belichick. I mean, he's earned the right to be able to kind of call his final shot on like where he goes and kind of how he goes. It's not been good at all the last couple of years there in New England. It's not been a super competitive team, but he's done so many championships, done it for so long. He is the New England Patriots. I mean, he's just kind of set that tone. But I it's time for him to move on from the New England Patriots. We'll see where he lands if he still wants to coach, and can he kind of pull some magic out of his pocket.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see, as it's definitely that Patriots team has had a gaping hole since Tom Brady's left, and it's really never been filled. And it's a really hard position to fill. I think you watch every team kind of go through this kind of struggle of how do we fill in that star quarterback after having years of consistent play from that position. You've watched it with that Steelers. We're talking about Mike Tomlin getting his name thrown in there. Filling in Big Ben has been a struggle for them. Now, they did get a nice little draft pick in Kenny Pickett, but he hasn't been able to live up to pushing them past, barely making the playoff kind of status, where I think they're looking a little bit more. They've been leaning more on their defensive side of the football. Patriots have been even worse in that aspect. If they haven't even gotten a quarterback to, I feel like, even fill in. Mac Jones looked to be that piece for a second there, but then just couldn't quite continue to put it all together. And it's kind of been on the whole entire aspect of Bill Belichick forces his quarterbacks to run really quality football plays with very little offensive skill talent around them, and
Right.
it really hurts a young quarterback developing like a Mac Jones.
100% no. And if he's going to regain that magic, he's going to have. I think he'll probably bring Josh McDaniels back, and run that offense for him. But he's going to have an uber talented quarterback to do that, and just to be able to pull that off. how they build their team, wherever that may be. So we'll see where that lands. We usually see about 8 coaching turnovers every offseason. We've already got what, 2 down, right? We know no, it's 3, right? 3, I think, down already, like mid-season. I'm just thinking through this because you've got let's see, I'm going blank on everybody
You
that's
got Brandon Staley,
yep.
right?
Yep,
You
Brandon
got
Staley's gone.
Josh McDaniels.
Yep. Oh, and then you've got uh I had a third. Is there not a third?
We got Frank Wright.
Frank Wright.
Did
That
he
was
get
who I was
fired?
thinking of. Yeah, the Carolina.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yep.
anyways, I had the right number. I couldn't think of the coaches, but so we have 5 here that we're talking about today. Probably there's at least these 5, but there's a lot of other people that seem to be in the hot seat, but maybe vying for a playoff spot at the same time, like Todd Bowles here at the Buccaneers. Of course, I'm wearing my Buccaneers hat. Shout out to Zach for the Buccaneers. Gave me this hat. So, again, I told you it was a name drop Friday here on the podcast. So, but got to pay the bills, man. I got to thank all the people. And so, anyways, but Todd Bowles, super great guy, great defensive coordinator. It's never quite felt like he's gotten the rhythm going as a head coach. He brought Dave Canales in from Seattle to run the offense, and they've gotten some nice things done on the offensive side. For multiple weeks, Baker Mayfield has felt dangerous. I mean, it's he's done some good things, and they got some some good things on that side of the ball. But I wouldn't be shocked if Todd Bowles was not the head coach coming into next season either.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see. There's a lot of question marks around the league as I mean, it's very similar. I mean, it's less talked about than the quarterback position, but the most impactful really position in an NFL organization is the head coach. And these head coaches can really make the difference between a rookie becoming a star or becoming a bust, and they can really make a difference between you winning a Super Bowl or you losing in the first round of the playoffs. And so
Yeah.
it's a lot of changes go every single year, and I'm definitely interested to see which guys are going to be out of the league and which guys are going to be coming into the league as we shuffle the deck once more.
Hey, we were just talking about Bill Belichick, a famous Bill, but I see the title of the next segment is Chasing Bill, but I don't think we're talking about Belichick. We're talking about another Bill that's great.
Yeah, one of your favorite wide receivers of
Oh,
all
yeah.
time, Bill Groman, the Houston wideout from 1960, who set the rookie receiving record at 1,473 yards. With all
It's
the new
impressive.
age passing, with all the crazy stats that we put up nowadays, still, the rookie receiving record is still held by a guy in 1960. We've had close attempts with Justin Jefferson in 2020, getting 1,400 receiving yards, and then Jamar Chase in 2021 as he had 1,455 yards. But we have a guy that's starting to creep up close to that number once again this year. Do we think he can do it?
I don't know. I mean, that Bill Groman, I mean, a legend amongst receivers. I mean, a lot of people, they say, "Oh, my favorite receiver is Jerry Rice." Maybe it's Megatron. It might be, whatever. But I mean, for my money, Bill Groman. I mean, an absolute craftsman. He may have been a craftsman in the offseason too, doing some carpentry work. Back then, they had to do some other things during the
Yeah,
offseason.
some plumbing.
Yeah, maybe
Uh,
some plumbing. Yeah.
uh,
Shout out to Bill Groman on our
yeah,
Shout Out Friday.
Yeah, speaking of just like technicians, though, Puka Nakua kind of does it a different way than the rest of our star wide receivers that we've seen do it. He has
Yeah,
1,327 yards, still 2 games
season.
left in this season. He's got at Giants, at 49ers to break that record. I think he's going to end up breaking that record, but he
Yeah, I
doesn't
think so.
necessarily look the same as the rest of these wide receivers where he's just dominating at every single level of the football. He's really working over the middle. He kind of plays The best comparison I give to him when I'm watching him play is somewhere in between Cooper Cup and Travis Kelsey. That's
Yeah,
what it feels like I'm watching, somewhere in between. And they've mastered that whole entire scheming him open with Sean McVay getting the perfect routes for him, and then giving him probably what it looks to be a lot of choice routes, and
yeah.
him and Matthew Stafford just being on in sync to the max and completing at a high percentage.
Yeah, and first off, I would be remiss if I didn't say Puka, you know, all name, NFL all name team, for sure. I mean, that's a great name. Gotta love that. But yeah, no, I mean, when we watched Justin Jefferson in his rookie year, we went, oh, that looks like greatness, right? That looks like what we want in the position, like what we're used to know, okay, we've got a great one coming here, folks. Like, look at that. That's not necessarily what we see with Puka, but we do see a very effective and a very, very proficient receiver getting it done within a very good scheme. You get Sean McVay scheming up things. You got the motions. You got everything that you come to expect with Sean McVay, kind of a football offensive genius. And then you've got the hyper talented Matt Stafford, getting it done. He's back off injury, and he's just aligned with Puka so well. But my advice to Puka would be make sure you stay with the program. Like, I would not leave Sean McVay. I'd stay, attached at the hip. Whatever they're going to pay you, they're going to pay you. Become a legend, man. Stay right there. Get the job done if you can stay there, because it's a perfect match, I think.
Oh, absolutely. I completely agree, especially now that Cooper Cup is on the wrong side of 30.
Yeah.
It definitely becomes more and more of the case where I want to stick with this team so that I can be that next guy up for them, as he's only, I think, 22 years old and still very young, going to be putting up a crazy good career, hopefully, if he can stay with a good coaching organization. But I think it's an interesting one. He fits with the new gen wide receiver that can be moved around all over the place, be used in multiple different ways, and you kind of use him as a chess piece that you beat the other team throughout coaching them. It's not necessarily going, I'm going to beat you one on one, like you do with Justin Jefferson, like you do with a
Right.
Jamar Chase, what those guys did on their rookie years. So he's a very interesting player. I think, like you said, keeping him with John McVay will be a key piece for him having a huge success in his career. But he could also end up, in my eyes, being a Juju Smith-Schuster type,
Okay.
where
Yep.
when he was with Mike Tomlin, Big Ben, Antonio Brown was on the other side of him. He was an over 1,000-yard wide receiver,
Mhm.
secure hands, big strong body, but didn't have necessarily that separation that you want on the NFL field. And that's what kind of I get worried about Puka, is he could end up falling into that Juju Smith-Schuster category if he ends up leaving the coaching of a Sean McVay.
No, 100% agree. You see the effects to the Chiefs offense with Juju gone this year. Juju, a very efficient, very good wide receiver, really can help a football team. But then you get into the wrong system and he disappears, right? I mean, 100% agree with that take. That's a very good comp, I think, to the production that Puka can bring. You bring Juju Schuster to the Rams. I mean, he probably puts up some really nice numbers in that offense and does some really good things. But the system is super important to those kind of wide receivers. And, I want to see Puka be productive, and he can do that in that offense. And shout out to a great rookie season. I mean, here's the thing about Bill Gorman, he did it in 14 games. You were talking about that early, so I don't know if anyone will ever catch Bill. Just, absolute greatness.
Yeah, 14 game season to get 1,400 yards in a rookie year is absolutely ridiculous from him. But
Oh, yeah.
one last little bit: if he does break the record in the last 2 games, does that get him into the conversation of rookie of the year over a CJ Stroud?
I'll tell you what, not in my book, because I think what CJ Stroud has done, just putting the Texans on his back and saying, listen, I'm going to bring the Texans from what seemed to be a for sure, bottom dwelling franchise this season, and making them actually part of the conversation. I mean, CJ Stroud has been an absolute dog out there on the field, and he's gotten it done on the field, off the field, in the locker room. I just, he just is franchise quarterback. To me, he's checked all the boxes this year, and we weren't sure if he could check those boxes coming in after his career at Ohio State. And Ohio State quarterbacks haven't fared that well in the NFL, but he has gotten it done. So he would be my rookie of the year. I don't know that he could stop that from happening. It would take a big, I don't know, off the field scandal or something for CJ Stroud to lose that for me. But Puka, I mean, absolutely incredible what he's done. I do think he'll break that record. It's a 17 game season versus a 14, so maybe there's an asterisk by it. But we don't want to lose Bill Gorman out of those record books. And, I think it's an amazing season, but I think CJ Stroud's still my rookie of the year.
I'll go opposite. Puka Nacua deserves to get the Rookie of the Year. I said it in 2020 when Justin Jefferson lost to Justin Herbert that
Okay.
Justin Jefferson should have been Rookie of the Year. So I'm going to stick with my guns on that. I feel like it should go more to who is the best rookie at their position,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that Puka Nacua has been one of the best rookie wide receivers we have ever seen. And
Yeah.
statistically, he's going to prove it by setting the receiving record, hopefully in the next 2 games. And so I'll say, he deserves the Rookie of the Year award for setting that record that hadn't been broken since 1960.
1960, the DBs were a lot handsier too, all the way down the field. I mean,
It's actually insane that Bill Groman had that stat because that
yeah.
is incredibly skilled player to get 1,473 yards in 1960.
No, it's incredible. So, anyways, not to belabor that. I like the pick. I like the you've always stuck with the frosting over the cake, and I appreciate your willingness to stick with the take.
Absolutely. Well, let's move on to some backup quarterbacks, as this has felt like a season of the backup quarterback. We've seen a lot of backup quarterbacks, and a lot of them have put up some performances that have been really fun to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. This has felt like the season of the backup quarterback. There's been so many injuries to the quarterbacks, and the backups have stepped in and done some pretty cool stuff. I mean, over the years, we've seen like Fitzmagic do some, good stuff in a backup stint. We've even seen backup quarterbacks come in and win Super Bowls, right? I mean, there's a statue outside of Philadelphia's stadium for a backup quarterback that came in, right, and won a Super Bowl. And so it does happen. But this year seems like there's so many of them. And the first one, maybe not the glory of the other ones and what's happened, but when, Aaron Rodgers went down before, really anything happened in the season, Zach Wilson had to step up and come back into it. It was his role. He got sent to backup, and now he's got to come back up to be in the starting core. Right? That's a hard task to do. You've just taken the big ego shot that you're moved to the backup, and now you got to come in back and play. How do you feel about Zach Wilson and what he's done this year?
Yeah, I mean, one of the tougher conferences, the AFC East, you got to play against the Dolphins and the Bills multiple times a year. You do get the Patriots, which I guess is a nice little matchup as well. But Bills and Dolphins are really tough. They've been one of the better teams in the NFL this year. They're both in our Super Bowl watch teams.
Yeah,
And so they've had to play them a bunch. And so it's been a tough run for him as a Jets quarterback. I think every quarterback that's played for the Jets has kind of had a tough run.
yeah,
And I think he's played better than what I expected. I think Zach Wilson has always been a what should have been a third round quarterback that had a lot of arm talent that could have been developed over multiple years. And he
yeah,
just never got that opportunity. I think this year we saw a lot of development from him, not nearly the development you need to get to the
yeah.
starting quarterback spot. But I think in a few years, give him another year where Aaron Rodgers gets back healthy. He starts for the entire year of 2024-25 season, and then Zach Wilson comes back after that, and you tell me he's actually figured it all out. I would not be shocked by Zach Wilson at all.
Yeah. Well, and that whole strange Aaron Rodgers year that we've had this year with the Jets, him wearing the headset on the sidelines during games, talking about that he's going to come back and play. Now he's on the active roster again, but not going to play this year. Really nothing to play for, you know. But it's been a weird thing to always have Aaron Rodgers in his shadow too. Like, when is Aaron coming back? You know, all those kind of things. Yeah, I'd like to see Zach still in the league, whether it's with the Jets or somebody else, you know, just sit in that backup role, just learn how to play the position at the NFL level, get out of the limelight. You know, the one thing that's really tough for the Jets is, yeah, they're in that super tough division. They're also in New York City. So you've got, you know, one of the media capitals of the world, and the light is pretty bright on that quarterback position there. And so, you know, it's a tough place to kind of figure out, how do I do this, my job in it at this level, and I got the spotlight right on me.
Oh yeah, definitely agree with that. Well, let's move on from one of the hardest fans to deal with to one of the easiest fans to deal with as we move on to the Midwest, Minnesota Vikings, as they've had three different backup
Right?
quarterbacks play from. You've had rookie quarterback Jaron Hall play about two drives against Atlanta as he started that game. Josh Dobbs, who had an exciting first two games, but
Yeah.
then absolutely fell off like no one expected. And
Right.
then Nick Mullins, who has played the last two games for the Vikings, not looked horrible, but has won his one matchup 3-0 against Las Vegas, and then his other matchup lost to the Bengals.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say this: Josh Dobbs, one of those great rise ups this season that I love to see. You know, he played well for the Cardinals, then gets traded midseason, starts off really well with the Vikings. We love the story, right? He's by education a rocket scientist, right? I mean, this dude's like a super smart guy, great guy off the field. You're just rooting for the guy, like just have this breakout season, and then all the wheels came off the bus just as you were going across the bridge, and now you're dangling over the water, and you're like, oh gosh, that didn't work out. Bring in Nick Mullins. Okay. And so Nick has actually come in, done a serviceable job, you know, threw to the guys with the wrong colored jerseys a couple times last outing. But you know, kudos to Nick. It's again hard to step into that position, and but you know, the Vikings have actually stayed relevant this season after such a rough start. And of course, you never expect Kirk Cousins to be hurt. He's been an absolute Ironman throughout his career. So, you know, got some young guys, some opportunities to jump out there and give it a shot. And some of them have played pretty well.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting one. I would like to see Jaron Hall out there a little bit more, as he's that young quarterback out of Brigham Young University, I think he was. And
Yeah.
so I think I would like to see him out there again, as he played some really good drives against Atlanta. But all the other guys, they're clear cut backups. They haven't been really playing above the backup status like we've been seeing this year. But it's still, the Vikings have been fun to watch. Josh Dobbs, he was playing above the backup status for about two games, and then everything came crashing down a lot harder than we expected. Next up, a guy who is just fun to watch. He's been good, kind of been, okay at times. Tommy DeVito. He's just been great
Yeah.
to consume everything Tommy DeVito, because it's always a headline.
Yeah. Hey, yo, Tommy, how you doing, man? You know what I'm saying? It's good to see you. You know, just throw the ball and do your thing. It's good to see you out there, Tommy. No, it's been fun. And his agent with the you know, the crazy Italian mafioso type outfits, you know, there at the games. Super great story. The wheels came a little bit off the bus off the field with his appearance to the sandwich shop, right? Yeah, the agent agrees to do the appearance, and then appears to, you know, go back on that. Tommy made it right by showing up and actually not charging him anything for the appearance. So kudos to Tommy for making it right. But love the story, fun stuff. And again, doing it in the brightest of lights, right, in New York City. They're in another pretty tough division, as they've got some competition with the Eagles, with Dallas, and even the Commanders are not an easy out necessarily in that division. So kudos to Tommy, and yeah, good to see you out there, Tommy, New Jersey boy.
Yeah, absolutely been a fun watch. I mean, getting wins against Commanders, Patriots, and Packers in that 3-win stretch with him as the starter, which was super fun to watch. He's looked at times. He's been more of a character than he has been for me an actual amazing football player. He had
Right.
that really 3-touchdown game against the Commanders, which was super fun to watch from him. And then against the Packers, he played well as well, but still, only 158 yards and 1 touchdown. Just played within himself, and that's kind of what they've asked him to do. As these last few weeks, he's kind of cooled off. But we'll see. As he's just kind of fun. As we love seeing an Italian man run the league. Uh, Next up, another guy that is an interesting man in himself. He lives in a van outside of a garage during the off season. Uh, and that is Gardner Minshew.
Oh
As
yeah.
yeah, he is an interesting backup quarterback, but been one of the best backup quarterbacks this year.
Yeah, and arguably one of the 32 best players at his position in the world, right? I mean, like this dude definitely could start for a lot of teams, but if he's your backup, you're really happy about that. Like, I mean, I think this guy is a difference maker when he's on the field and plays really good football. That's, that's as good as it gets at the backup quarterback position. And the Colts, they had it right because they had a really nice rookie quarterback playing good. He gets injured. Gardner Minshew's right there, and you can still stay in that playoff hunt with Gardner Minshew as your quarterback, maybe even over a rookie quarterback that you would have went through some growing pains with the rookie and everything, maybe even put you in a better position for this year. I'm not saying long term, but for this year. So kudos to Gardner Minshew, and I love just the swagger that he brings. He's just a fun character for the NFL.
Oh, he's great. I mean, just put up a 3-touchdown game against the Steelers this past Saturday and looked fantastic while doing it. I mean, 215 yards on that game as well, which has been fantastic for him. And he's just been one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL, like you said, top 32 in the world. And it's great to have him as a backup quarterback. They're 8-6 on the year, and they'll be looking to get another win this weekend. You guys will know the results of that by the time this comes out. But it should be fun to see as his season continues and may even getting that playoff push. Now, let's move on to a guy that he hasn't got a ton of looks this season, but Drew Lock has been fun in his appearances that he has made.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this on the last podcast. Yeah, his last outing. Now he probably has another outing before this podcast airs from when we're filming it. But he had such a heart, felt end of the game to win that game, and I just loved it. He's just, guy that kind of career you thought maybe he was going to have a starting quarterback career. The things kind of fell off, and then he got a rebirth, and just super happy for the guy. I hope when this podcast airs that he's had another good outing, and he just has a good end of the season here. Rooting for Drew Lock.
Yeah, he's just a feel-good story that you just want to see succeed as he looks happy to be just succeeding with his team right now,
Yeah.
which you always root for those guys that are just having fun playing the game. The last two guys, they're fun to talk about,
Oh
as
yeah,
these
these are
guys
good
are the
ones.
guys that have played at a level that was just not expected by the two of them, and it's been very different. We'll start off with Joe Flacco for the Browns, as the Browns, all they needed was a game manager quarterback that's not going to throw a lot of interceptions, he's going to throw on time passes. Joe Flacco hasn't been that. Joe Flacco has been taking risks. He's been launching it down the field. He goes, I'm gonna throw it up to my playmakers, Amari Cooper and David Njoku. He's never been the quarterback to just dink and dunk it down the field, and he
No.
doesn't. He hasn't changed it as he's gotten older, and I love it. It's been so fun to watch. He does get himself in troubles at times, as I think he's 2-1 right now in his starts, but 2 wins have been great.
Yeah, no, and I mean, love a good Joe Flacco sighting for sure. I mean, we missed, that no risk it, no biscuit Joe Flacco on the field. I mean, it's just good, just something about that Joe Flacco. It's good to have him out there. And yeah, I mean, you didn't know if you were going to see this Joe Flacco ever again.
I mean,
He
last game against the Bears, you're talking about 374 yards, 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. That's what you want to see out of Joe Flacco.
That is a Joe Flacco football game right there, and I'm here for all of it. That's just
Absolutely, absolutely. I love it. I'm gonna be thinking about it for a few weeks about Joe Flacco's 2 touchdown, 3 interception game.
yeah.
It's how Joe Flacco plays the sport of football.
Yeah, and if he gets on a hot streak, that's what we saw when he won the Super Bowl on a contract year, which is just so fitting for Joe Flacco. You know, he can go run through a playoffs and just be absolutely brilliant. You just don't know when it's fully going to materialize, and then he's just going to take over a game and just do some amazing things. But yeah, Joe Flacco, good to see you here during the holiday season.
Oh yeah, been so fun. It's been a beautiful Christmas gift. And
Yeah.
last but not least, Jake Browning. He's been a super fun quarterback for the Bengals, taking over for Joe Burrow. He's almost looked like a starting caliber quarterback. He's
Yeah.
throwing, I think, 70% completion percentage from him over his starts, which is, I mean, 100% a starting caliber quarterback in the
Yeah.
NFL. The only question I go, is it a benefit of having Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins, and Jamar Chase all catching for you and having just one of the best pass attacks in football? Or is he actually a guy that deserves to be one of the top 32 guys in the NFL?
Well, in how do I blame a guy for having weapons, right? I mean, we're not going to blame any of the other quarterbacks if they got good weapons. Oh, well, yeah, but he has good weapons. Yeah, I don't, I discount it. No, he's played good football, and it's really going to be whether it's sustainable, over the long haul. But I like what I've, seen, out of, Jake Browning, just one of the top quarterbacks in the NFL. I came in for the whisper. That just makes it mean a lot more. Shout out to Jason. We're here in his studio, and he says you got to whisper sometimes to bring home the effect. Continuing
Bring
on
home
with
the
my shout out Friday.
I like it. I like it. I mean, you talk about a guy that's been throwing, just completing at a high percentage, as that's what I really love to see out of a backup quarterback, is they come in and they complete at a high percentage, don't throw a lot of interceptions, and especially with a guy that has that many talented pieces around him, that's 100% what you ask for. And you talk about his starts, it's been 73%, 86%, 75%, and 69% for his last 4 games. He's thrown 3 interceptions in those past 4 games, so not even a interception per game. And you can't ask more from your backup quarterback. And if I was a organization looking for a bridge quarterback to even a guy that may start for me for 4 years, I may be looking at Jake Browning in the future.
Yeah, I don't know what his contract situation is, but if I'm a team that's looking for a quarterback and the Bengals are willing to release Jake Browning, I may bring him in and let him compete for the starting job of my franchise. Definitely has had a great season, and I'm just impressed. I'm super impressed. The moment was never too big for him, when he stepped in for Joe Burrow. And that's a tall task, to be asked, mid-season, stepping in for an all-pro, top, 3 quarterback in the NFL. And you got to go fill his shoes. And he's like, yeah, I got it. I got this. Hold my beer.
Yeah, on a 1-year, $750,000 deal. So
Yeah.
he's going to be open for people to sign next year if anybody wants to pull him in. So that would be cool to see. Speaking of contracts, just the craziness of contracts, I just found out that good old Archie Manning,
Oh, I was just going to say the same
backup
take. Yeah.
backup quarterback for the Texas Longhorns, made more money this year than an MVP candidate Brock Purdy did this
Yeah.
year, which is
And I
just
think Jake
insane to me to
Browning
think
as
about.
well.
Yeah, more than Jake Browning as well. But he's a guy who came in as a backup. We're talking about a guy who started the season as the starter, is an NFL MVP candidate, one of the
Right.
best quarterbacks in the NFL, Brock Purdy, and the backup quarterback for the Texas Longhorns is making more money than him. Just craziness.
No, and Arch just got elevated to the backup quarterback because the backup quarterback for the Texans just transferred out because, blah, 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 the portal, and we can get into we won't delve into all that. But he was literally the third string quarterback for most of the season. Yeah. And he's making $3.2 million as a college student on NIL deals. Yeah, kudos to Arch, though.
Year of the backups, man.
Yeah, it is. It truly is. Well, we thank you guys for listening, for watching, for subscribing. Make sure you click that like. Make sure you click that subscribe button. And I know we're coming to you just before the new year, so happy new year, guys. It's been awesome to get this thing rolling on Elevated Mission Podcast, the Ruggles Round Up. We're having a blast hanging out with you guys each week. And so make sure that you continue to listen, make sure you continue to watch, and just have a great holiday season.